economy is expected to expand 2.5% this year.
Boosting Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of the Status UN summit. A massive drone attack on Ukraine overnight on Monday and Tuesday.
Arirang.
For thousands of years, one breath has endured. More than a martial art, it is the Korean way of life. Taekwondo, connecting the world. Smarter than ever, Taekwondo leaps toward a new future, connecting the world through a single movement. The spirit of Korea meets the boundless energy of K-pop. No longer just a sport, Taekwondo is at the heart of K-culture, bringing Korea's spirit to the world. A beautiful culture, connecting heart to heart. We now strive to safeguard Taekwondo's community training culture as a treasured heritage for all humanity. The pride of Korea, Taekwondo.
South Korea's relentless heat is tightening its grip, with the highest level heat warnings expanding across the capital region for the first time and forcing the suspension of professional baseball games. The Jae-myung administration has unveiled the diplomatic and security priorities for the second half of the year, calling for nuclear-powered submarines, the transfer of a wartime operational control, and renewed dialogue with North Korea. U.S. President Donald Trump says the Strait of Hormuz could reopen soon, while warning Iran it faces a very powerful attack if it refuses to cooperate. Our top story tonight, South Korea's relentless heat wave is turning deadly. The death toll has reached 21, and the unprecedented heat has even halted professional baseball games for the first time. Park Jun-an starts us off.
As of 4 p.m. Wednesday, the Korean Meteorological Administration has expanded its highest-level heatwave warning, serious heatwave warning, to cover 62.5% of the greater Seoul area. A severe heatwave warning is issued when an area's daily maximum feels-like temperature has reached 35 degrees Celsius or higher for at least 2 consecutive days. After that, the warning is issued if either the daily maximum feels-like temperature reaches 38 degrees Celsius or higher, or the daily maximum temperature reaches 39 degrees Celsius or higher. It's only been a few minutes since I stepped outside, but as you can see, I'm already starting to sweat. If I had to describe this weather in one word, I'd say exhausting. On Tuesday, unofficial temperature readings in Seoul districts including Gangnam-gu and Guro-gu even topped 39 degrees Celsius. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration's report, this past July recorded the highest average minimum temperature on record at 23.4 degrees Celsius. The nation also experienced an average of 9.7 tropical nights, during which temperatures do not fall below 25 degrees Celsius. That easily surpassed the previous record set in 2024. The prolonged heat is taking a growing toll on public health. According to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, the estimated death toll this year has risen to 21. The estimated number of heat-related illnesses has also climbed to 2,441 nationwide. The scorching weather has also disrupted professional sports. To protect the players and spectators, the Korea Baseball Organization announced that for the very first time, it will cancel all first and second team games on Wednesday and Thursday until comprehensive measures are put in place. With dangerously intense heat wave expected to continue, health officials are strongly urging people to stay hydrated, avoid prolonged outdoor activities, and seek immediate medical attention if signs of heat exhaustion appear. 박준환, Arirang News.
And as the unabated heat grips the capital, Seoul is strengthening its response to protect residents from the extreme temperatures. Shin So-eun has more.
With temperatures reaching 39 degrees Celsius across much of Seoul, the highest level heat alert has been in place since Tuesday, while the heat island effect traps heat between buildings and asphalt. In response, the local governments converted around 4,000 community centers and senior citizen centers into cooling shelters, providing residents with free air-conditioned spaces.
The temperature outside of this community center is 36 degrees Celsius. But inside the cooling shelters, the temperature can come down to 27 degrees Celsius. For residents vulnerable to extreme heat, these shelters can provide them a chance to cool off before heat exhaustion becomes a medical emergency.
Listed on the Seoul Metropolitan Government's website and open for unlimited visits, cooling shelters also serve as a shared ground that infuses community spirit.
This center has served local seniors for more than 40 years, but anyone, not just members, can come in and take a break from the heat.
The National Disaster Management Research Institute says heat-related illnesses at home more than double during extreme heat, especially among elderly and low-income residents who lack regular health checkups.
If heat-related symptoms appear, you may not be able to respond on your own. So when outdoor activity is unavoidable, make sure you are with someone rather than alone.
Non-profit organizations such as the Buddhist-affiliated Wongaksa also provide relief from the heat, serving free meals that help residents regain their strength.
Preparing these meals is deeply rewarding for us. We serve simple, traditional home-style food, just like the meals people used to eat at home.
Founded in 1993, the center operates a year-round without a single day off, providing a daily meal to about 250 to 300 people.
I come here 3 or 4 times a week. Eating out is too expensive, so this free meal helps me save around 12 to 13,000 won each time.
For workers who usually consume caffeine, its diuretic effect can accelerate dehydration by causing the body to lose more fluid. To help offset that risk, free bottled water is handed out to pedestrians across the city. Experts say headaches and fatigues are among the earliest signs of heat-related illness, advising people to avoid unnecessary outdoor activity between noon and 5 p.m. when temperatures are typically at their highest. Shin So-eun, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung presided over briefings earlier today, and one session was on the foreign policy and national security, with relevant ministers like Foreign Affairs, Defense and Unification delivering briefings. The president also took time to share his thoughts on their policies. For more on this, we have our Kim Do-yeon in the studio. Welcome back, Do-yeon.
Good to be here.
So, Do-yeon, let's start with the overall diplomatic policy strategy and what the president emphasized.
Right now, the administration's core thesis is that sustainable economic growth is impossible without regional stability, and President Lee framed geopolitical security directly as an economic necessity during the briefing. Take a listen.
우리 대한민국의 대도약 그리고 지속적인 성장 거기다 국민들의 더 나은 삶을 위해서는 한반도의 평화와 안정이 가장 중요합니다.
To lock in that stability, Foreign Minister Cho-yeon emphasized the importance of multilateral summits and the network that Seoul can build. For example, G7 Plus and NATO have provided platforms for Seoul to make stronger presence in the global scene. He also emphasized the ROK-US alliance and announced that Seoul will accelerate talks with Washington on acquiring nuclear-powered submarines, offering strategic cooperation in commercial shipbuilding and naval maintenance as key leverage.
We will accelerate consultations to secure the requirements for building nuclear-powered submarines and create conditions for uranium enrichment and reprocessing while developing the ROK-US alliance in a future-oriented manner through strategic sectors like shipbuilding.
The ministry is also coordinating closely with Washington on trade and economic issues to ensure these strategic negotiations yield mutually beneficial outcomes.
Then turning to defense, Do-young, President Lee also took a firm stance on military command. What's the actual timeline for the Defense Ministry's regaining of wartime operational control?
Right. President Lee explicitly tied the return of OPCON to national sovereignty, arguing that a state unable to command its own forces in wartime remains incomplete. First, take a listen.
어떤 외부의 도움도 없이 우리 스스로의 힘으로서 지켜나가는 자주 국방은 우리의 가장 큰 과제다. 그리고 당연히 주권의 일부인 군 지휘권도 스스로 행사해야 되겠죠. 당연히.
Following that directive, Defense Minister An Gyu-baek outlined a fast-track timeline for the transfer and completing the full operational capability verification.
In the second half of the year, we will swiftly complete the roadmap. And once the full operational capability verification is completed, we will push forward with speed, including proposing the timing for the OPCON return.
The transfer hinges on three conditions: the military capability to lead combined defense operations, a comprehensive alliance response to North Korean nuclear and missile threats, and a stable regional security environment. To complete the verification, the military must meet the required standards for the first two capability conditions. The government anticipates conducting partial assessments for these requirements during this month's Ulchi Freedom Shield joint exercises. Once cleared, Seoul intends to officially submit its proposed transfer timeline at the annual security consultative meeting later this year.
And finally, on inter-Korean relations, with the communication currently frozen, how does the Unification Ministry plan to break the deadlock?
Right, so President Lee strictly ordered officials to maintain a policy of engagement despite Pyongyang's lack of response, warning that abandoning dialogue ultimately harms national interests.
근데 그건 결국 국민들한테는 나쁘죠. 국가 공동체에게는 해악이죠. 그래서 힘들긴 하지만 우리가 평화와 공존의 정책을 계속해 나가야 되겠다.
To build momentum, Unification Minister Chung Dong-young outlined a multilateral roadmap to re-engage North Korea.
It is necessary to propose initiating discussions on a peace regime for the Korean Peninsula at the UN General Assembly in September, and to expand those discussions using APEC in November as a catalyst.
The strategy centers on internationalizing the issue. Seoul will introduce the peace framework at the UN in September before leveraging the APEC summit in November in China to launch a four-party peace process actively involving China. The ministry is currently aiming for an inter-Korean summit during the first half of the president's term, which would be by the end of 2027.
Right. I see, Do-young, thank you for the coverage.
My pleasure.
U.S. President Donald Trump says a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz may be close, but warns Iran of a very powerful attack if talks collapse. Our foreign affairs correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the Strait of Hormuz will reopen soon, warning Iran could otherwise face what he called a very powerful attack. Speaking to Fox News on Tuesday local time, Trump said the United States was having very good discussions with Iran and claimed Tehran was eager for an agreement after months of conflict. But he added that the only thing that matters is action, saying Washington would wait to see what happens. His remarks came as officials on both sides signaled progress towards reopening the strategic waterway. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Tuesday that Washington was involved in talks between Iran and Oman aimed at allowing more vessels to pass safely through the waterway.
I think that there's a conversation and negotiation that we are involved in between Oman and Iran on how more ships can be able to go through there safely in the short term as we move towards these longer-term talks about denuclearization. And suffice it to say, there's been progress made in those talks, but not finality yet. We're hoping that will happen very shortly.
While Rubio was cautious to stress no final agreement had yet been reached, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was more optimistic. Bessent said an agreement could come as early as Tuesday or Wednesday to allow vessels to travel freely through the strait. But he did not directly answer whether Iran would be permitted to charge ships for passage. Tehran, meanwhile, maintains that it is negotiating with Oman, not directly with the United States, but said Tuesday that the talks were positive and ongoing. The strait remains largely blocked following the outbreak of the US-Israeli war with Iran in late February. Seoul, Arirang News.
And the White House has sent to Congress a priority bill that would allow the U.S. Navy to build ships at foreign shipyards, potentially paving the way for expanded shipbuilding cooperation with South Korea. Cha Young has this report.
The White House submitted a proposal to Congress in July requesting authority for the U.S. Navy to build 2 surface combatants and 2 non-combat auxiliary vessels in foreign shipyards. In a statement of administration policy sent to the House of Representatives on July 21st, the Office of Management and Budget highlighted the initiative, urging lawmakers to oppose restrictions in the fiscal 2027 National Defense Authorization Act that would block foreign warship construction. The White House expects that constructing U.S. Navy vessels in foreign shipyards will resolve severe domestic shipyard backlogs while driving direct foreign investment back into American facilities. In its policy statement, the OMB cited the Finland model, an approach where the U.S. rapidly acquires vessels from allied foreign shipyards and transfers technology and production back home to revitalize its industrial base. Eyes are now on South Korea after U.S. President Donald Trump highlighted Korean shipbuilders for cooperation as his administration seeks overseas-built vessels. With South Korea stepping up efforts to support U.S. naval modernization, Korean shipbuilders are widely viewed as prime candidates for the partnership. However, the proposal faces a tough battle on Capitol Hill. Current federal law strictly mandates that U.S. Navy vessels be built in domestic shipyards to protect national security and preserve American jobs. With lawmakers pushing back against foreign procurement, the showdown between Congress and the White House is expected to become a major flashpoint in defense policy. Cha Young, Arirang News.
In other news, the South Korean currency is drawing fresh attention after U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent highlighted its recent volatility alongside the yen. Kim Bo-kyung has the details.
While underscoring the importance of a stable yen, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Tuesday pointed to the South Korean won's excessive volatility. The remarks came during an interview with CNBC following a joint intervention by Washington and Tokyo in the foreign exchange market last week to support the yen. He said that the yen's stability matters for the entire region given Japan's role in global trade, the size of its economy, and its contribution to global savings. He also warned that prolonged weakness in the Japanese currency could spill over into neighboring economies, citing excessive volatility in the Korean won. In fact, the won has largely moved in tandem with the yen in recent years, though with even greater volatility. The won depreciated 12.5% against the dollar in 2024, exceeding the yen's 10.6% decline over the same period. This year, while the yen fell 2% against the dollar, the won declined 4.6% in May, and in June, the yen rebounded 3.8%, while the won weakened 7.1%. Bessent's remarks suggest that the U.S. administration believes the won should return to a more stable path, potentially giving South Korean authorities greater room to take proactive steps to stabilize the foreign exchange market. One expert, however, does say that even if the authorities intervene, there wouldn't be much change.
Even if Korea tried to intervene in the foreign exchange market. The problem is most of the fundamental movement in the currency flows were due to stock markets and firms' fears about future dollar rates and possible investment in the United States. So even if the foreign exchange currency authorities tried to intervene in the dollar-won market, it probably wouldn't have done much good.
The same expert added that it remains to be seen whether Bessent will follow up with concrete measures to help stabilize the won. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Now, Wall Street is doubling down on South Korea's memory chip makers as a booming AI demand drives the next wave of advanced memory technology. Baek Joo-hee has more.
At least 6 major Wall Street firms, including Bank of America and UBS, have recently initiated coverage on SK hynix ADRs with buy or overweight investment ratings. Bank of America highlighted that robust demand from U.S. tech giants, leadership in advanced memory, and soaring AI infrastructure spending are setting the stage for supercycle level earnings. Rosenblatt Securities set a price target of $320, implying over 120% upside for Monday's close. Boosted by the bullish momentum, SK hynix ADRs closed up 8.17% at $154.38 in New York on Tuesday. Along with market optimism, major tech updates were unveiled in Silicon Valley. Samsung Electronics showcased its next-generation memory solutions at the Future of Memory and Storage 2026 conference on Tuesday local time. Samsung unveiled its 3D ZHBM architecture, which stacks memory directly on top of AI accelerators rather than side by side. By minimizing data travel distance, ZHBM delivers up to 8 times the performance and triple the energy efficiency compared to upcoming HBM5 standards. Samsung also introduced Z-Nando for on-device AI, matching DRAM server speeds at 1/6 the cost. Alongside this, it unveiled the industry's first 400-layer 10th generation VNAND, boosting storage density by 58%. These technical strides align with positive long-term market projections. On Tuesday, an analyst from market research firm Yole Group projected that Korea will maintain its undisputed memory dominance through at least 2031, supported by aggressive corporate investments and government plans to double wafer capacity. Market analysts report that as the industry shifts into AI 2.0 centered on inference, memory development cycles have shrunk from 18 months to 12. This faster pace, combined with big tech's push for custom AI chips, is expected to loosen NVIDIA's dominance, creating new growth opportunities for agile Korean suppliers. Baek Joo-hee, Arirang News.
As of May this year, the number of employed older adults in South Korea has surpassed 10 million for the first time since statistics were first compiled. According to the Ministry of Data and Statistics on Wednesday, the working population of people aged 55 to 79 has reached 10,125,000 people, reflecting a 50% increase over the past decade. Now, 7 out of 10 older adults expressed a desire to continue working on average until age 73, citing living expenses and the joy of working as their primary motivations. South Korea's medical tourism industry is expanding beyond K-beauty, with the traditional Korean medicine emerging as a major draw for overseas visitors seeking holistic care. Hong Sa-jung tells us more.
Eyes covered and completely relaxed, foreign visitors experience automated acupressure baths, a modern take on traditional Korean meridian massage to boost circulation. Nearby, guests try automated hand massages using camellia oil-infused herbal masks.
It's not like a one-size-fits-all, which sometimes I feel like in America that's kind of how it is. So I really appreciate how personalized it is.
These experiences are part of a wellness program run by the K-Medicenter, an organization dedicated to promoting traditional Korean medicine.
Recently, thanks to its appearance on Netflix's K-pop Demon Hunters, interest in our center has surged, bringing in more visitors from around the world.
In the traditional pavilion, tourists soak their feet in warm water infused with seasonal medicinal herbs like chrysanthemum.
I feel like
they have a lot of evidence suggesting that the Korean practices here lead to strong health outcomes, so relaxing.
Long known for cosmetic procedures, Korean medical tourism is expanding into traditional medicine, offering international visitors a uniquely holistic approach to wellness. As interest in traditional Korean medicine grows, more people are experiencing treatments like acupuncture or skin therapy firsthand. Following a thorough consultation and diagnosis, patients receive acupuncture therapy and facial treatments infused with traditional herbal ingredients.
Unlike conventional skin boosters, this formula incorporates traditional Korean medicine. We transformed Hwangmyeon Haedoktang, a classic herbal remedy, into a modern cosmetic treatment.
As a result, foreign tourists are expanding their beauty itineraries, visiting not just conventional dermatology clinics, but traditional Korean medicine clinics for advanced skincare.
Korea is very good for their health technology, and then also for the skincare treatments and everything. So that's why I want to try for this one, for like the traditional one.
Combining affordability with proven effectiveness, K-medical tourism continues to rise in popularity, with traditional Korean medicine expected to become a key global draw. Hong Seo-jung, Arirang News.
All of Seoul is now under a severe heatwave warning, the highest level in the nation. Easterly winds are crossing the Taebaek Mountains, and as that air comes down the western side, heatwave warnings now cover almost the entire western side of the country. And we're not getting much of a break after sunset either, so please take the heat seriously day and night. For now, one of the biggest wildcards for our heatwave is Typhoon Dolphin. If it continues on its current track, it's likely to move west and head towards southern China next week. But depending on exactly where it goes, it could actually intensify our heat rather than cool things down. So we'll definitely want to keep watching this one. Tomorrow, Seoul will start the day at 27 degrees, Daejeon 25, and Daegu 26 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 39 degrees, Daegu 36, and Busan 33 degrees. As this intense heat continues throughout the week, please stay hydrated and watch out for signs of heat-related illness. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.
For thousands of years, one breath has endured. More than a martial art, it is the Korean way of life. Taekwondo, connecting the world. Smarter than ever, Taekwondo leaps toward a new future, connecting the world through a single movement. The spirit of Korea meets the boundless energy of K-pop. No longer just a sport, Taekwondo is at the heart of K-culture, bringing Korea's spirit to the world. A beautiful culture, connecting heart to heart. We now strive to safeguard Taekwondo's community training culture as a treasured heritage for all humanity. The pride of Korea, Taekwondo. For thousands of years, one breath has endured, carrying patience and respect. More than a martial art, it is the Korean way of life. Taekwondo, connecting the world. Always with us, always a part of everyday life. That is Taekwondo. Now, powered by science, Taekwondo evolves once again. Powered by speed, precision, and data, smarter training drives motivation and engagement. United with science, Taekwondo is shaping the future. Though languages and borders may differ, we are united through the shared spirit of Taekwondo. Beyond the Olympic stage, passion comes alive. Taekwondo One is becoming a global sports tourism destination. Every day, we write a new chapter of harmony. The spirit of Korea meets the boundless energy of K-pop. No longer just a sport, Taekwondo has become a driving force of K-culture, sharing Korea's spirit and style with the world. Kicks in rhythm, precision in every beat. Through the powerful movements of Taekwondo, we become one. Taekwondo, humanity's most dynamic icon, continues to prove its limitless potential to the world. Where curious footsteps pause, the vibrant spirit of Taekwondo fills the air. Inner strength, respect for others. Now a familiar part of everyday life, Taekwondo has become a celebration shared worldwide. A beautiful culture united through the spirit of respect. Connecting heart to heart. This is the world Taekwondo creates. We now strive to safeguard Taekwondo's community training culture as a treasured heritage for all humanity. The pride of Korea, Taekwondo.
When did it all begin? The beginning of joy embedded in daily life, where steps of learning meet a bigger world, and history coexists. The legend continues. Innovative technologies come together to unfold a new future, building a better tomorrow. A joy accessible to all, always present in your daily life. JDC.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-Gyan. The arrival of Ambassador Michelle Still has raised expectations for a new chapter in U.S.-Korea relations. Just days after taking up her post, she met with Foreign Minister Cho Hyun for wide-ranging talks, signaling that key bilateral issues are already moving on the forefront. Now, at the same time, there are signs of renewed diplomatic activity with China. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is expected to visit Seoul later this month as the Korean government also steps up multilateral diplomacy in hopes for creating momentum for dialogue with North Korea. So with Washington and Beijing both stepping up engagement with Seoul, what could these developments mean for Korea's foreign policy and security? For more on this, we are joined in the studio by Ko Myung-hyun, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Strategy. A very big welcome, Dr. Go.
Good to be with you.
And also joining us is Mark Barry, Associate Editor Emeritus at the International Journal on World Peace. Good to see you again.
And good to see you again.
So let's start a discussion right away. First with Dr. Go, of course, with Ambassador Michelle Steele. What does her appointment first mean for the U.S.-Korea alliance?
Well, it clearly represents a closing of a chapter. So South Korea didn't have a sitting U.S. ambassador for 18 months. So last time South Korea had an ambassador was in January 2025. But when the Ambassador Goldberg left the country, he wasn't replaced by anyone. In fact, the bilateral relations between the two countries was, in a way, represented by an acting ambassador on the U.S. side for more than a year. So it's actually a good thing that we have finally turned the corner and then have an ambassador who's, in fact, has a wide network in the U.S. Congress, which is going to be a very important player when it comes to implementing the joint factions. And also, she's actually Korean American, and I think it actually represents a very benign, friendly face to the Korean public. So in a way, I think it's a high point of U.S. public diplomacy in Korea. But having said that, everything this represents the Korea-facing side of this appointment. But there's also another aspect to this, which is in a way more substantial. So Ambassador Steele comes to Seoul with an agenda. In fact, there's no agenda in the sense that it's nothing secretive or anything. It's in fact she has a mission, and the mission is implementing the Korean side, the joint faction, essentially what Korea has to deliver to U.S. side based on the agreement that the two U.S. and Korean leaders reached back in October 2025 in Gyeongju. So in that, South Korea promised to the United States, for instance, not to discriminate against the U.S. firm, especially when it comes to digital platforms. So, and that actually puts on the table two major issues, which one is the Coupang issue. So Coupang is a retail company in Korea, but it's actually based in the United States. So it's been under scrutiny and investigation by the Korean side for violation of personal data privacy protections. So, and also there's access to the sensitive data by Google, very important online platform. So, and Ambassador Steele wants to essentially support U.S. economic interest here and against some sort of friction that's actually epitomized by the Coupang issue that's going on right now. So I think this also represents a point of friction between Washington and Seoul, and I think Ambassador Steele will have a lot on her hands.
Right, both anticipation and also concern with her latest appearance. But looking deeper at Ambassador Steele, she's a former politician rather than a career diplomat. Dr. Barry, how could that shape her role in Seoul?
Well, first of all, she's not just the second Korean American, she's the second woman to be a U.S. ambassador to Seoul. And I think that that, in my mind, means she doesn't have to let men define her role. I think she's going to have to approach a very difficult situation of a Washington administration that is much less sensitive to its allies than any previous administration in memory, and handle it with a woman's intuition and great dexterity, great sensitivity. Also, this may be her last career position, although it's possible she could step down a little bit early and run for Congress again in 2028, depending on what will happen. But she'll have to abandon any concepts that she's already had when she was an Orange County supervisor and her 2 terms in Congress, and deal with realities on both sides in a fair and balanced manner. And she'll have to earn the Korean public's respect, because she may have a few months of honeymoon period, but when the going gets tough, which it will, she's going to have to be seen as extremely fair and extremely balanced.
Right. Certainly, as Dr. Go said, she would have a lot on her table moving forward. But if we build on that, Dr. Barry, Ambassador Steele recently met with Foreign Minister Cho Hyun for wide-ranging talks. Do you expect her to take a firm America First approach on issues like defense cost sharing and tariffs? And also, how should Seoul respond to those?
I see her as a traditional conservative Orange County Republican, and she is not connected to Trump's inner circles. And I think it's incorrect for mass media to indicate that she has a strong connection to the White House. She does not. The true inner circles for President Trump consist of billionaires and loyalists from West Palm Beach and New York City. However, I will say that during her last congressional campaign, Michelle Steele got a lot of funding from Elon Musk. So she does have a connection with the cryptocurrency scene in the United States, which is not surprising. But nonetheless, she's going to have to endeavor to explain Trump administration policy, even though it's oftentimes very changeable and sometimes very contradictory, even within different departments in the U.S. cabinet. If she insensitively echoes Trump rhetoric and demands, it's going to backfire, and the Lee administration may decide to largely, but very politely, cut her off. Also, one of her challenges in coming weeks, in my view, may be Trump administration criticism on the topic of religious freedom. Because we're approaching the September 5th first anniversary of Charlie Kirk's death, days after meeting pastors in Seoul and Busan. And also we have pending judicial decisions regarding indicted non-mainstream so-called Korean religious figures. And this is a subject that was brought up by White House Faith Office advisor Paula White, whose office is in the West Wing, and she met for almost an hour with then Prime Minister Kim, and then escorted him unexpectedly and by surprise to a 20-minute Oval Office meeting with President Trump. So this is something that Ambassador Ambassador Steele will have her hands full of, because she can't avoid that issue. It's going to be a hot issue in the U.S. and how it's perceived in South Korea.
Right, quite a lot of controversial and sensitive issues that has to be tackled right now. But what about North Korea, issues on North Korea? Dr. Go, Ambassador Steele has been outspoken on North Korean human rights issues and also skeptical of the end war declaration. How do you think that could affect future U.S.-Korea coordination?
Well, so Ambassador Steele is on the record for having protested or opposed the signing of the end of a war declaration, and when she was a tenured member of the U.S. Congress. But then that was in 2021, and then it was a different president in Korea. There was President Moon Jae-in, and then unlike President Moon Jae-in, the current president, Lee Jae-myung, he's not placing that much weight on the end of the war declaration. Back in 2021, President Moon essentially had placed all the weight, or say, all his political capital in the end of war declaration as a way to propel the inter-Korean engagement forward. Right now, that's not the case at all, and partly because North Korea is now reciprocating or engaging with the South at the moment. So, so her record of having opposed the end of war declaration is not going to be an issue. But then, on the other hand, what could be an issue is that her emphasis on the North Korean human rights records. So that's more of a sticky issue because that's besides the security dialogue that Seoul and Pyongyang or Pyongyang and Washington could establish. So, but then the human rights issue, in fact, it's going to be a more challenging issue to overcome, because once you depict the other side as a mass human rights violator or like engage in crimes against humanity, it really makes it very difficult to engage in diplomatic channel. So, so that's going to could be a sticking point for North Korea, especially because North Korea is very defensive when it comes to the defending its own human rights record. So, and her background as the child of so the refugees from North Korea who eventually relocated to the United States, is going to color her interaction not just with North Korea but also with South Korea. The South Korean government clearly, even though it's not putting emphasis on in the war declaration, but on the other hand is putting a lot of weight on the inter-Korean engagement, which we're going to discuss later. So in that sense, I think she's will have to accommodate not just her instincts or her record as a very strong hardliner when it came to North Korea, but also the fact that she's not just in a country that's actually pursuing resumption of engagement with North Korea, but also represents an administration that is also interested in engaging North Korea. So I think she's going to be, I think, very flexible in a way when it comes to North Korea against some concerns that we have based on her background and experience and records.
So we'll have to see how her personal views would really affect policies moving forward. But beyond North Korea, then she's also taking a firm line on China as well. Dr. Berry, could Washington press Seoul to do more on China at this point? And how should Korea balance the two?
Let me, first of all, add to what Dr. Go just said. You know, President Trump has said a zillion times in this second term that I have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I'm looking forward, I hope to meet him again in the near future. And that is his policy, and no one can contradict that. So I think Ambassador Steele has to walk a fine line of being tough on North Korea and maintaining a denuclearization policy, but at the same time giving that freedom of room for President Trump to pull a rabbit out of his hat, which may or may not happen in this term. But in terms of China, what I see is that you know, the pressure that you're speaking of is really not going to come from her. It's going to come from the cabinet members like Treasury Secretary Bessent, Commerce Secretary Lutnick, et cetera. Those are the people who articulate on behalf of their departments their objections to any tendencies that they see in South Korea or a certain towing of the line that they want to see. And I think Ambassador Steele's job is to very gently re-articulate that and phrase it in a way that is as acceptable and polite as possible. But if it's still somehow taken rather offensively by the Lee government, then Seoul can always respond by politely making her irrelevant.
So definitely we'll have to see how much will change under her new position. But let's shift gears a little bit, Dr. Go. China's Wang Yi is expected to visit Seoul later this month. When he comes, what kind of message do you think would Beijing likely to send?
So I think it's really about optics, like all diplomatic engagements with China. So Foreign Minister Wang Yi is visiting South Korea. I mean, in a way, it represents, it symbolizes the full normalization of restoration relations between Seoul and Beijing. So Foreign Minister Wang Yi had visited Seoul before, but then this is in a way represents like a high point in the bilateral relations between China and South Korea, which actually resumed after President Xi of China had come to Korea last year on the occasion of the APEC summit, but also President Lee's reciprocal visit to Beijing earlier this year. But then we have to also, besides the symbolics, there was also taking into consideration the bigger picture, especially the security picture in Northeast Asia. So Wang Yi, Foreign Minister Wang Yi is coming to Seoul as a counterbalance to the rapid rapprochement between Seoul and Tokyo that's taking place at the moment. So, Wang Yi is coming to Seoul right now, but then I think in a way this visit is in response to Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi's visit to Korea in May this year. Because the relationship between Beijing and Tokyo is at the very bottom right now, I think there's the concern on the part of Beijing that if China allows South Korea to deepen its not just bilateral relations when it comes to diplomatic cooperation, but also this diplomatic cooperation between Seoul and Tokyo is increasingly tending towards military cooperation. And this, if this is allowed to happen, then on the whole, it's going to represent a major pressure on Beijing. So I think one of the important missions for Foreign Minister Wang Yi is to somehow dissuade South Korea from further deepening its cooperation with Tokyo. So I think this is something that Seoul expects to hear from Wang Yi. But I think about the same time, Seoul would like to somehow use this occasion to obviously to relay a message through China to Kim Jong-un that it's ready to resume inter-Korean engagement. And I think this is the reason why the Blue House, the presidential office in South Korea, timed this announcement, the new unification doctrine, on the eve of the Minister Wang's visit to Seoul.
Right, so this latest visit could signal a lot of opportunities. Then, alongside this possible visit by Wang Yi, Seoul is also considering sending a delegation to Russia's Eastern Economic Forum as well. Dr. Berry, do you think Washington will view Korea's efforts to broaden its diplomatic engagement with China and Russia? What do you think, Washington, how would it view it?
I don't think it'll be too surprised. As long as relationship with the U.S. and with Japan is tight, which I see it continuing that way. And actually, it's a very good step for South Korea because certainly there'll be North Korean emissaries attending the Far Eastern Forum. And it's also quite possible that Kim Jong-un may meet Putin there or in that vicinity, as they have done in the past, maybe not attending the forum per se, but it'll be timed more or less with that visit. Although, to be honest with you, Kim Jong-un is still, yearning to be invited to Moscow, much like his dad and his grandfather, and it hasn't happened yet, and he feels maybe a little demeaned by that. But I think the chances of them meeting, let's say provisionally, with a Moscow visit in the future are very good for this September, and it's very good for South Korea to send its diplomats to that forum, which makes them more devoted participants in the processes for Northeast Asia.
Now, there's another angle to this, Dr. Go. Wang Yi visited Pyongyang in April. Then if he comes to Seoul by the end of this month, how do you think North Korea would watch this?
I don't think North Korea will be concerned, at least for this time, because Wang Yi is coming to Seoul after President Xi of China visited Pyongyang in June. So clearly, if you look at the protocol level, President Xi ranks much higher than Minister Wang. So for North Korea, this is not an issue at all. So I think North Korea is going to be allow this to pass. And at the same time, we wouldn't be too concerned about what kind of a dialogue that could take place between Seoul and Beijing, because clearly President Xi went to North Korea, unlike the bilateral summit trip between Seoul and Beijing, because it was actually the Korean president, Lee Jae-myung, who went to Beijing. So in terms of optics, it looks like North Korea has the upper hand compared to the South. And this was pretty much, very much by design on the part of China. So I think China meant to project this kind of optics to both Seoul and Pyongyang. And I think Pyongyang is probably right now highly flattered by this, because when you compare to North Korea and South Korea, Seoul, it doesn't really need to boost its prestige or confidence anymore by this kind of protocol games, whereas North Korea wants this badly. As Dr. Berry made a remark, North Korea is probably still hurt that, or Kim Jong-un is still hurt that he hasn't been invited to Moscow yet. So I think China knows how to handle each Korea, and knows which button to push. So I don't think Seoul is upset about this, and I think Pyongyang is happy. So China is actually pulled off a master move, keeping both Koreas happy at the same time.
Then what about the peacemaker, facemaker strategy, Dr. Go? Seoul has unveiled this. Do you think this approach could actually help in resuming U.S.-North Korea dialogue?
So I think the strategy is very sound, because it's all about somehow creating a framework to operationalize President Trump's, which is likely to be evaporating interest in engaging North Korea in direct dialogue. So, this is essentially the only factor that engaging North Korea and the United States, at least indirectly. And I think South Korea wants to operationalize this before really fades away. So, there are two parts to this policy. One is a declaratory policy. So there's the element, a component of a reassurance on the part of Seoul towards Pyongyang that it doesn't mean to absorb North Korea by unify North Korea by absorption, but also there's a big element of respect accorded to North Korea. So he has essentially to change the language of cooperation. So whereas before South Korea would put on the table a major, massive economic assistance package in case North Korea needs it or responds to South Korea's engagement, now South Korea is using the term mutually beneficial cooperation. So essentially, South Korea is telegraphing to Pyongyang, it doesn't assume that North Korea is a needy party in this relationship, that North Korea and South Korea are equal partners in any kind of future endeavor. So this is essentially a sign of respect. Again, the game that China plays well in North Korea is now South Korea playing the same game in North Korea. And so I think this is a well thought out change of language on the part of South. But the second point is, in fact, the operationalizing the President Trump's desire or wish to engage the North. And this is being operationalized well because this framework includes not just the United States, but also China, because South Korea knows that it's very difficult for South Korea to engage North Korea directly. And also it's difficult for the United States to engage North Korea directly because North Korea doesn't feel confident facing the United States alone. So it's looping in China as well. So this complex framework essentially offers a little bit of a positive return for everybody. And so I think this is a well thought out framework. But then fundamentally speaking, what's lacking here is North Korea, whether North Korea is going to respond to this. And I think this is going to could be part of the big chunk of the conversation that South Korea would have with visiting Foreign Minister Wang.
Right, so we'll really have to watch whether this could open the door for more dialogues moving forward. But I'm afraid we'll have to leave our discussion right here. Dr. Go, thank you so much for your insights.
Of course, my pleasure.
And of course, Dr. Barry, we really appreciate it.
Yes, great to be here today.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.